Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Calhoun's. Folks, there's nothing better than a taste of Tennessee, the taste of Tennessee, and that's what you get when you go to any of the 9 area Calhoun's locations. And right now, as the weather gets warmer, and by the weekend it's going to be warmer again, this is the place to go. You need to get to any of the Calhoun's that have that nice deck. There's so many of them on the water. I know you got the river here. You've got here in Knoxville. You've got Oak Ridge is on the river. All over the place. Calhoun's, just a tremendous place to go. Check out their stuff online on Twitter at Calhoun's. They're always doing giveaways. I think 2 weeks ago, didn't they have? They pull out a name and they give away a free lunch on Wednesdays if you are named X. And a couple weeks ago, the name was Chuck. And I knew, well, yeah, Chuck will be there, and you did.
Yeah, and it actually went until 8 o'clock at night. And it was some of the best ribs I've ever had. It really was.
All right. Follow them online. Follow them online. Okay, Jeremy Pruitt did make it clear that he wants to see more physicality from his team. But yesterday was also really the first day that they'd done much anything other than thud work. He made a comment earlier this year when he was talking about injuries that sometimes you have injuries because you tackle too much in practice, suggesting that maybe the last group tackled too much in practice when actually a lot of people thought they didn't tackle enough in practice either. All right, my question is, how can you have more physicality if you're not tackling? Is that a fair comment, or do you think he's just saying that on day one to make the point clear to his guys, I want more?
I think he's trying to make the point clear to his guys. I mean, you can't have it both ways as a coach, can you? I mean, you can't say we're not going to do this, and then when you do it, we need to be more physical. Hey, I think everything he's about is getting them ready for April 21st in the spring game. And that's what he's building to, and that's what we'll see how the product looks then.
I think it's a fair comment. I think both things are true. I think he feels they need more physicality, but at the same time, he's going to continue to stick with his way of practicing, which is to thud almost all the time and not tackle to the ground. So, so far, you haven't heard of any new injuries this spring. It's possible they could be hiding one or two that we haven't heard of, but so far we haven't heard of any new ones, and I think that's a big deal. So the fact that they're healthy, we've talked before about how big of a deal that is. The fact that they're healthy and just need more physicality, I think you'll take that over the alternative, and I think it's where he is.
Gentlemen?
I kind of think you need to be more physical at practice. I mean, especially
to be more physical, you
have
have
to be more physical. You
over.
need to be more physical. I think one leads to the other. I think it's also tough when you've got a team that's where Tennessee's at right now, and I think people kind of forget that you're, statistically, you were the worst team in the SEC last year.
Yeah.
And so I would probably be a little bit more physical up front. I'm sure Jeremy Pruitt knows more about than I do, but I think if you want people to be more physical, you've got to give them the opportunity, one, to learn how to enjoy being more physical. I mean, it's a funner game when you're hitting people and everything. So maybe you said earlier about the body language wasn't all that good. Well, heck, let them play football and practice a little bit. That's kind of what makes practice fun.
Yeah, and I do think part of it does go to the message. A lot of what we've heard from Jeremy Pruitt has gone back to effort and how players are acting in practice. And in the periods that we are able to be there early on when the media is allowed to see with individual position groups, you'll see the coaches, especially coaching players up front, the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebackers, if they think a player takes a soft approach, and that's words that they've used, they will let them know that that's the approach the coaches have seen. So I think part of it is the message and how players are going about their effort in practice.
There are cases in SEC history, and I've talked about them on the show before, that until Missouri did it, you really didn't see many SEC teams win the league by going less physical in spring. Georgia famously did it one year after they had tons of injuries, and it was the year that they came back that fall and had a losing record. Missouri, however, Gary Pinkel came out and said, we had so many injuries last year, we're not going to hit much in the spring. And I thought, yeah, you're doomed, wins the East. So maybe things have changed. Certainly Alabama, this is where he's coming from. He knows how much they hit. But I lean a little bit toward you. It's like hard to say we need more physicality if this is the first day they've been allowed to be physical.
Well, it also depends on the quality of the athlete and the quality of the football player you're dealing with. I mean, some guys are going to come out there and they don't need that. They're just naturally outstanding football players. Other guys, I think, need to get into the rhythm of hitting more and hitting a lot more and being better hitters while they're doing it.
I think the message of the team behind closed doors, too, is there's a lot you can do to become a better tackling team and a more physical team without having to tackle in practice. You can go through the motions, and he pointed out yesterday, your feet have to be the most important thing about tackling. If you keep your feet under you, everything else will take care of itself, and they've got to get better at that, and that doesn't involve tackling to the ground necessarily.
Two other more physical players probably aren't there either, at least on the field. Trey Smith, Juwan Jennings, they're out to the side.
We'll talk a little about Trey Smith a little later in this show. When we come back, though, Tennessee basketball. We got more football coming up, including ESPN's look at what they think Tennessee will do win and loss-wise in the SEC. We'll discuss that. But next, Tennessee basketball projected into the top 10, projected into the top 5, into the top 4 in one listing. High expectations. Good thing, bad thing. We'll discuss.